Welcome to the Practice Podcast, conversations probing the nature of practice. I'm your host, Dave Fearon, co-author with Peter Vale of the digital book on Practice as a Way of Being. Find it at mylibrary.world. Now to our show. This is another former student of mine from over 20 years ago, Greg Balicki. But when I saw on LinkedIn that he had just been promoted to Senior Vice President at Voya, one of our leading financial services companies, I thought, I better reach out to him because whatever we learned together back then must have stuck. And a lot of learning in between then and now. But he is a good example of what Peter Vale and I mean by practice. His way of being as a problem solver with a bent toward complexity, which is perfectly suited for the operations role he has now, is really just so admirable. And I hope that you will learn from Greg as I did in this conversation. So here he is, Greg Balicki. Well, I have found another former student. They don't hide from me. I just, it's been a lot of years for some of my students, and I love reaching back and now reaching up to the moment to see how their lives have changed since we sat in those uncomfortable desks at CCSU. And then later, maybe you got the comfortable. Did you get there in 2000, Greg, so you could get the comfortable chair?
The new business school buildings, so I did experience the comfort of the new amenities.
Yeah, we thought we were, moving uptown on that one. That was what a difference. But the learning was basically the same, and it still is. I mean, you are, as I recall, a very serious learner. And like most of our students, while you were a student, you were working or pursuing, where you wanted to be in life. And we didn't have a lot of the traditional partying and coming to class, in not very good shape. It was a serious group of kids. I thought of you guys as kids. And over the years, I'm trying to remember, I think you were starting at Voya when it wasn't called Voya.
No, I started at Travelers at the time. I was working at Travelers while I was at CCSU.
Yes.
Yeah. Wasn't until maybe 4 years ago that when I joined Voya. So I had a couple of job changes in the midst of my career. But Travelers, for the most part, I was with Travelers for about 13 years or so. And then I made a move to Mass Mutual and then Voya, Sun Life, and back to Voya.
I think you were at Mass Mutual when we reconnected by LinkedIn, and I asked you if you had met up with Nicole Thorogood.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You remember her? She was and probably still is, became a senior leader there, but she was very much involved in IT innovation when after she left me. Folks, we're living in the insurance capital of the country, if not the world. So a pretty good chance that many of our students go that direction and don't understand how challenging and learningful those jobs can be. They kind of think, oh, what am I going to do? Just sit there and wait for someone to call and put in a claim or ask for their retirement funds. But it's a lot more dynamic. And over the time, Greg, that you have been growing, not only your reputation, but your leadership development skills there. And now you're senior vice president. And I can't even repeat all the letters and words behind you. Yeah, but for the folks' benefit, you are now senior vice president of the operations for...
So senior vice president of COO business management at Voya Investment Management.
So what is COO business management?
The chief operating officer. I report to the chief operating officer at Voya, and I support this, we call the COO organization within Voya.
Oh, so that covers all the different divisional areas and yet provide sort of a centralization of the critical business processes, including information, money, people. Yep.
Operations, products, right? There's a lot that falls in that organization, but that's a new role for me. I'm having fun with it.
What surprised you the most when you stepped into that role, as far as what you had to absorb and understand?
Wow. So I think with every with every job change, you have that fear of the unknown, fear of not really thinking you need to be an expert. And I think every job I've ever taken in my entire life, there's always that. It's good fear. It's fear that kind of keeps you on your toes and challenges you and gives you that energy to wake up and try to hit every day with everything you have. And you're competing with other talent out there in the marketplace. So you really need to demonstrate your value quickly, but at the same time, you need to be realistic. You can't just wake up in the morning and know everything about the job. So taking a new role like this, just you need to be humble, learn, ask a lot of questions, make sure that you seek to understand before you act. There's a lot of things that I've taken over my career that you just kind of repeat with every cycle, with every job change, and they tend to work. But I always like to say, when I was at CCSU, I had no idea that I would ever take a path like this. I really didn't know what my path was.
No kidding.
Yeah. But I think I'm pretty normal from that perspective. Nobody really has their career.
Well, yeah, I mean, people had ideas, but you couldn't possibly know. And so even if you were one of our athletes, they thought, well, I'm going to graduate. I'm going to get picked up in at least a semi-pro team or whatever. And then, life changes. So, but again, I think I'm sort of championing the experience that you had there with me, because I had it too. And that was that it was understood that most people arrived there without a real clear understanding of how business was going to make a life for them, and they were going to make a life in business. And I can remember how many students would come in and say, why do I have to take 3 math courses, calculus, business calc, before I can, take a management class? And I said, well, it's not my preference. I'd rather you start with the creative aspects of business and then learn the hard stuff later. But no matter what, if you're going to be in business, you cannot be a one-trick pony. And this is justified by your career. One thing you can do, like even in accounting, well, I'll be an accounting major. I'll just do the books. No. And this was back in, before we had a lot of technology in the picture. So but why did you choose Travelers when you left? Did you wonder one of the events that I sponsored?
Honestly, at that time, my focus was management information systems. And I heard from former college colleagues at the time that Travelers had a leadership development program, and that they really invested in new talent, new hires. And just at the time, it worked out. I had there was a career fair, and I hooked up with somebody at the career fair, and made a good impression, and had a job as desktop support. I was not picky about what I started off with. I just wanted to get my foot in the door, and I took that advice from some friends. They said, whatever it is, just get your foot in the door.
Get in the bloodstream.
After that, you can show them what you're capable of, and that's how I started at Travelers.
Yeah. What did you discover to be your winning strength back then that's sort of still with you?
Problem-solving skills, learning to kind of break down problems into pieces, and that was very helpful with the early days of managing technology, right? Troubleshooting. So really just trying to break down problems and not try to overwhelm yourself by solving the whole thing, but solving pieces, and really breaking down things into variables. If something breaks, you need to really control those variables and make sure you know exactly what you're addressing every time you change something.
You see the same ability to move yourself close to problems and do the analytical breakdowns going for you now, even though it's been
Absolutely
a number of years.
Very important. Every business problem, you need clear understanding of what the problem is. You need clear understanding of what levers you can pull to solve the problem, and and you can't try to fix everything at the same time and look at the results. You have to apply a change, see what that does, and kind of methodically approach anything. And that skill set, I think, you can apply that in life, in business, everywhere.
Absolutely. But it's not something everyone carries with them. I mean, it's what I've been looking at over the 200 plus episodes of the Practice Podcast is sort of like a center of gravity that people find themselves, if they're fortunate, having. And from that point, the skills can emerge or have emerged, and they can deepen. But if you're too far off your center, and I urge people to try leaning to gain some diversity in their experience, you do tend to get pulled back. Because now people know that that's what you can do. You're the go-to guy, Greg Balicki. Got to go see him, bring him a basket of problem and see what he can do with it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I suspect that's helped you along in the various transitions you've made.
Yeah, I mean, I started in technology, and that slowly brought me closer to the world of project management, program management, and that's what project management is all about: breaking down
Yes, it is.
a business problem, but being clear on where your destination is. Right? There's a lot of projects that get started, and there's no clear, we call it North Star, or no clear end point in the project. But really, my life has taught me that you need to be really clear with where you're starting from and where you want to end. What is your success criteria? And making sure that all the surroundings, like the cost of the project, the resources you need to manage that project, the business stakeholders, they're well engaged, they understand where you're heading. And it's all about transparency and minimizing surprises, right? You want to be able to work with somebody and say, hey, this is the business problem. This is how we're going to get to solving that business problem. Here are the steps we're going to take to get there. And here's what you can expect along the way. And here's what you can expect when you get there. The other thing that I learned is that as much as you want to think that you have the path figured out ahead of time, it changes along the way too. So you have to be, agile in your thinking, and you have to be open to changing course. If you get 50% through a project, and you might sit back and say, I don't know, some of our initial assumptions are not playing out the way we thought they were. It's okay to pause, have that conversation with your business stakeholders and say, we need to change some things, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I think that transparency has really proven itself in my career. Is like, that's my job, right? If I'm leading a project or leading a project management organization, I want to make sure that all the people working with me and for me understand that same philosophy, that we are all about making sure there's no surprises, that there's full transparency along the way. And tends to work.
Well, if we were laying projects out in a neutral world with no changing circumstances and none of the competitive pressures of business, et cetera, you could lay out a pretty nice path, and it's certainly used to be on paper, but you could print it out and make it look very, very doable, and then stuff happens. But a lot depends on what this is my point of view, the industry and the company that you're a part of in regard to what conditions are going to be coming your way. Now, when you're in property casualty, one of the largest, Travelers being one of the largest, they had lots of different dimensions of what what they sold to and the claims they processed. But basically, it was fairly predictable. And I know if a travelers person was sitting here with me right now, they say, I don't think so. But from my standpoint, looking at that versus even retail now and things that are happening out there in different sectors, at least you had the requirement on your part of the insured that they had insurance or they couldn't drive or they couldn't get a mortgage for a house. So that kind of stabilized it somewhat. But now we're talking about Voya's world, a world that you entered, which is where I can tell you as a retiree receiving a monthly biweekly checks, I want Voya and any other company that's servicing retirement obligations to be stabler than anything else in the world.
Absolutely.
No, I want the check. So what are some of the feelings you now have in terms of the obligation that you have to ultimately to your the people who you
Yeah, well, it's our customer, right?
the
I mean,
customers,
every job you ever work, there's either a customer that's internal, it could be somebody in another department, or it could be the end customer that's buying the product that the company sell. You need to look at both, right? What are you doing that's ultimately impacting that customer? And they're depending on you in some way, shape, or form, right? And I
Yes.
think it's important for any project, any person working on anything to have what I call line of sight into what you're doing and how that impacts ultimately that end product that's being consumed, right? That's how you're making money. You should never lose sight of that.
Absolutely.
And we in technology, when I worked at Travelers, a lot of people thought, well, yeah, we're technology, we're behind the scenes. Nobody really sees us. We don't really talk to the customer directly. But there's always, if you dig into it, there's always a connection with the customer, and that's what I think is important.
All along the spine of the work, all
Right.
along, yeah.
You follow it, and then you also, it's a good reminder to everybody that, yeah, you can't just miss a deliverable, right? And because ultimately, if you do trace it down, there will be an impact to the customer. There will be an impact to the business, and it's a good motivator for the team to always know how important that project is, or how important that problem is that you're solving to the grand scheme of things running the business, right?
Yeah.
If you have an entire company that follows that same philosophy, I think you're setting yourself up for success and setting yourself up for making sure that your client or your customer is front and center in everything you do.
You've moved into a different circle of relationships as you become, now a senior VP in that domain. I can only assume that the others in that circle share what you just said, that they're very serious about ultimately the customer experience and all the way back, and they're very serious about maintaining financial stability for the way the company invests its money and all the rest. So do you have any fun with these people? Because you got a lot of responsibility.
No, it's like, I think fun comes from overcoming challenges together with people, and some people think fun is, just getting your job done. And I think that's totally normal. There's different types of workers in a company, different types of people. And I think what makes a company strong is you have the diversity of multiple, personalities and backgrounds and work types and you name it. But, for me personally, I get a lot of energy I get a lot of energy out of overcoming big problems, right? And doing things that are impactful for the company, where you can sit back and look at it after and say, we did that together. We celebrate it. We also reminisce and go through all of the challenges and the tough times that we had through the program, because there's some crazy stories that I have. I probably can't really speak about a lot of them on the podcast in specific.
Go ahead.
But there were times where you almost want to crawl underneath your desk and say, okay, I'm going to give up here, and that you have to just push through that. And I think the people that you work with, it's a support structure. The people that I work with right now, we're like a family. We're fun. We have a lot of fun, but we also work hard. and we hold each other accountable. We're very professional. We always, make sure that we're doing the right thing and ultimately do our job, right? We're here to keep the company in business, to make more money, to keep our shareholders happy, and to have fun at the same time, right? That's the best combination.
Oh, it is. And I think, if I was back at Central and you were a guest in my class, I want my students to hear just what you said,
Yeah.
that there's a destination. It might take a few years, maybe a couple of decades, but when you're working in a circle of senior leaders, and they're very trustworthy and mutually respectful, but also the kind of people you want to have a beer with, it's worth all the work you had to do to get there.
Mhm.
And yes, you get compensated, but I think there's another level of compensation, which is, hey, I get to solve some of the big problems. They hand me some of the ones that are high stakes. Am I correct in that the problem solving that you get to do at that level has very serious and long-term consequences?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're spending a lot of money, and there are a lot of things on the line, and but yeah, we always remind ourselves that we need to have fun along the way, but also be professional and hold each other accountable so that we don't lose sight of what we're actually there for.
Now, my recollection is that Voya is originally owned in the Netherlands. Is it, in other words, is it a global company?
Yeah. So it used to be ING. That's way before my days there.
It was ING. That's what I was trying to remember. That's where Nicole, I mentioned you earlier. That's where she interned originally, ING. My wife worked for Security Connecticut, which was acquired by ING, another company, and then reacquired by ING. She had by then stopped working. And then it went on, and ultimately it became Voya. And that's when I recall, because, kind of keeping an eye on all of our different insurance games around the Hartford area, that it was perhaps one of the only ones that had headquarters beyond our country. We had quite a few foreign installations, the Travelers and the Hartford and everything, but it was the other way around. And I thought that was great.
Yeah.
In part because it meant there's a lot more business writ large that was drawing funds in. And yes, you were putting it out in regard to your obligations for retirement, but it was not. When Connie worked in that one little Security Connecticut, the senior leadership was on the 2 floors above. I mean, it was a very small company.
Mm-hmm.
And she was one of the first to support annuities. We were just sort of breaking in. This is a long time ago in the 90s. And so it was like, I don't know, they're not quite sure what these products are, but she was the one on the phone with little grandma who said, I think there's a problem with my check. And Connie would say, well, what would it be? Because they couldn't bring them on the screen back then. She'd have to go find a woman's file, look at it, say, she said, yeah, I think I've been cheated for 19 cents.
19 cents.
Well, you could see why my wife would come home sometimes like, oh, I don't think I can do this anymore. So it helped us get our kids through college, and then she stopped working there. But my point is that there's that, you talk about the end user of a huge company, it's still that little old lady who's counting every penny.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Connie still gets a Voya check every month from
Great.
for her part of our retirement, which helps our 21-year-old cat eat every day.
Very important. Very
To
important.
put it all in perspective, But I think that's one of the things I hope everyone who gets into business understands. There's hardly a business out there that you're working for that doesn't end up with a very necessary and satisfying response from a customer that's going to make their life better. We have social services, we have lots of great nonprofits, but there are things that businesses do too that make life very, very livable. And I think one of them is what you're doing. Looking ahead, Greg, You've climbed quite a few different hills. You're in a very good vantage point. Do you see a long-term future in what you're doing right now and where you are?
Like I said, I feel like I have the same philosophy when I left college. I really don't have a map for where I want to be in the future. I just want to continue to learn and have fun and grow and do a good job. That's all. I mean, I don't have like a 5-year plan necessarily. But again, do I want to continue excelling and moving up? Sure, of course. But
Why not?
I want to earn it, right? I don't want it to be superficial. I want it to be completely earned based on what I deliver and what I do for the company. And that's been my philosophy. It's like you have to be patient. I know for a lot of the students that might be listening to this, getting ready to graduate, you really have to be patient about how long it does really take to establish yourself in the industry, make the connections, learn the ropes. And I'm in the beginning stages of my journey right now. I still consider myself a junior to some degree, right? I'm still learning. I'm in an industry where, I'm not an expert in, right? But that's how I approach every day. Like, what can I learn? How can I expand my knowledge and really understand this business better? And it's something that, coming out of college, you're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to say, how do I work in this big company? I don't understand every bit and piece of it, but you'll never understand it, right? You'll understand enough to do your job, and you'll always crave more information and knowledge and talking to people. But ultimately, get good at what you're assigned at, and have relationships with people across the organization to help teach you, help expand your understanding of what the company does, and just don't stop learning after college. It's just the beginning stage. You really, college sets you up for how to learn, right? It gives you that basic foundation of studying and responsibility and discipline, right? Handing in your assignments on time, showing up to class, using that time effectively. You only have so much time on this earth, and use every day to the fullest, and don't just skate by life, right? You want to earn what you have, and you also want to approach every day like a new learning opportunity.
Oh, that's great.
Sounding very preachy now, though.
No, not at all. Hey, listen,
I have 3 boys, and
I'm the choir. Yeah, how far along in life are the boys?
My oldest son is 15, turning 16 soon, so he's a sophomore in high school. And I have my middle son. He's an 8th grader, and he's going to be graduating soon, going to high school. And then I have a 6th grader.
So that's a critical group of the kids are wonderful, but it's a critical time as they're moving through and learning the values you just talked about. Because maybe they'll learn them in sports, maybe they'll learn them in other extracurricular ways, but it's a crucial time to pick up a work ethic. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, and it's not easy. They question school. Why do I have to take so many math classes, Dad? Why do I have to do that? And I said, guys, this is life, right? Nothing's gonna be handed to you. You have to learn. School is there for you. Maybe you won't use some of the stuff you learn in school, but that's okay, right? Treat the class like a challenge. I'm going in, I'm learning something, I want to master it, right? Just treat everything in your life like that. You want to master everything that's handed to you, that's put in front of you. You want to get good at it, even if it's football. They all play football. I want them to be the best they possibly can at football, but it's something that you need to work at. You can't just show up on the football field on game day. You need to hit the weight room, right? You need to work on your plays. You need to study the plays. You need to watch film. You need to do all those things, and that'll set you up for success.
It's a very cerebral game. So people underestimate the sports like football and think it's basically just hitting on the field, knocking people down. But there's like every one of these sports, if they're learning it at a young age, what the sport calls for in terms of intellect as well as character and all the rest.
Absolutely.
It's great. I have I featured Hannah Cooper this week in a conversation. She Was it Central around the same? When did you leave Central?
2003, I believe.
Okay, well, she's a little after you, but not much. But anyway, while she was at Central, and when she came in, the only thing she really loved, and the rest was uncertain, was softball. She came out of the, school program, came to Central, and we didn't have much of a feel for the girls. We had a very good coach, but they had to basically, practice out in a back lot somewhere. It was really not well supported, but she was determined that she was going to get more attention paid to softball. And as I recall, when she was in my classes, she was really using the management course to figure out not only how to play the game better, but also how to get the institution to listen to the argument that it weren't just there for Title IX purposes. They were there because softball creates a great character and a kind of alum that Central would be proud of. And she is. But anyway, over time, she's a business analyst now and she's worked in that area, but her so-called side hustle has always been training, teaching girls softball. And now she has the Cooper Clinic. So it's a part-time thing that she works out with a friend at a fitness center, but she's got these girls in there and at the age of your sixth grader and a little older, and they are powering that. I saw her on LinkedIn or on Facebook. Some of these girls can throw a ball underhand at 12, and hit that catcher's glove, and you hear the smack. So they're learning the strength, they're learning all of that, but also her website talks about character development, mind, spirit, body.
Absolutely. I mean, just learning how to work with a team or on a team and work.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I probably overuse them, but I use the sports analogies a lot at work, and you have to, the simple one, you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? You have to look at the whole team and help each other develop and get better. And ultimately, like a football team, right? Same thing. The players need to look out for each other. You need to have leadership. You need to have the discipline. You need to have the work ethic. You need to have that winning spirit, right? The desire to win. And you need to have that perspective of why are you there? Why are you investing all this time and energy into a sport if you're just going to give it half of what you really can?
Right? Yeah, best to step away.
Right.
And you can experiment. I think I tried 3 or 4 different sports. Found out I was not very good in any of them, but I did find out I could teach swimming, and that saved me. So I did that through junior high and high school and college, and it gave me an edge in terms of staying with the sport, but also being able to support it in a way other than being able to swim fast. But I got a lot of kids swimming, and some of them became, swimming champions. So you got to do it one way or another. Sport is important. Now, as we're kind of coming up on the last few minutes, Greg, let's see I'm still intrigued about what is the sort of the daily heartbeat of a company like Voya that basically is in the business of selling through agents a product for retirement and related financial services. What's kind of the beat of the heart there that if it's slow, it bothers you. If it's too fast, it means that, you're not going to be able to manage the stability that people need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this earlier. I think I'm going to go reference back. I mean, you are providing a service that is important to this world, to the country we live in, right? You're providing financial stability, right? You're providing a means of retirement, right? So you have to always remind yourself of very important things. I work on the investment management side of the house, and we're providing a means for wealth, for building wealth, right? And I think being part of that, that's the heartbeat. We're part of something that there's a larger picture to this, and it's important for society to have the services that we offer with our company, and that's at the same time, it's important for us to also recognize that we're in a position where we can also help the community out. We do a lot of volunteering. We have certain days of the year where our company sponsors us to go out and chip in and help with the with volunteering at certain events, and we do drive a lot of that within our culture here, is that we are a community and we're here to help support the community.
I like that. Where's your location? What's the primary location in Connecticut?
Windsor, but I work mostly from either New York or home. We have multiple locations, but we can't
answer that with one word any longer, can we?
I can't. It's anywhere and everywhere, right? Yeah.
Well, again, that's an expanding environment for you as a learner. A lot of people had to adapt during the shutdown and the pandemic, but then after that, when it looked like there was more possibilities to take advantage of a hybrid kind of world, and particularly since you're a global company and you do a lot of remote anyway, in order to stay in touch with all the partners. There's some learning challenges there too, aren't there? Because you may have teams, probably do have teams, where you've only seen your team members this way on Zoom or some related technology.
Yeah, we still take the time to meet in person. We try to get into the office as much as we possibly can, but understanding that the work arrangement that we have there's a lot of virtual to it. But I think it's a balance, right? And I think it actually works well, because we meet in person where we have some real topics, like some real team building that we need to do in person, or some real meetings that need your undivided attention. And I think there's times where working virtually is just great. And so I think it's always a balance, right? You can't be completely hybrid. No. You can't be, and then we're living in a time where you don't have to be completely in the office, right? If you go to the office and everybody that you're working with is sitting in their desk and they're not even leaving their desk and they're not in a conference room together,
why?
Yeah, right.
Going back to
working from home.
Going back to the furniture of our business school, before, when I started teaching there was these hard wooden desks with the arms on them, and I would teach a lot of night class. I pity these people basically coming there and sitting there for 3 hours in those uncomfortable things. And of course, I get people up and moving a lot, but still, you go to the point today, you will find a lot of virtual classes, mostly virtual classes with hybrid at even our former school. And I think it's preparing that group of students for the life that you're living right now. They have to be functional in all settings. And now with artificial intelligence coming in and taking out people's behinds, that's competition there too. So Greg Balicki, you are very impressive alum of Central Connecticut State University and of the Dr. Fearon class and our MAS program, which was just developing when you were there in the early 2000s. It's a lot has come along, a lot of improvements, and I think if I could stick around for another 20 years, which I can't because I'm 81, I'd be back checking in on you. And because they'll get at least 20 more ahead of you. And I think it's going to be some exciting times. And one of the great excitements will be to be there when each of your 3 sons graduates from high school and college.
Oh, yeah.
So you get that ahead of you. And that's a wonderful thing to have happen. So thank you very, very much.
You got it. And CCSU, great school. I think it laid a nice foundation for me in my career, and just best of luck to all the graduating students this year and years to come. Thanks for having me here.
Okay. Take care, Greg.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Practice Podcast.
conversations probing the nature of practice. If you'd like to hear more, go to Automatic, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. And please consider purchasing our book on practice as a way of being at mylibrary.world. It's a digital book with lots of features that you do not see in a conventional book. So once again, thank you, and I look forward to you listening again.